Hi guys, Jay here. We're going to take a closer look at Tuesday the 25th of October's workout, and we're going to look at ways in which we might modify or adapt this workout for our kids. Today, hopefully I'm going to be able to give you an insight into ways in which we might set this workout up, whether we're doing it at home with our children or in an affiliate setting, and they'll look slightly different, and you might have a play around with some of the order of the exercises depending on the layout of your space. So today's workout, 5 rounds, 50 single unders, dumbbell farmer's carry for 50 meters, 20 GHD sit-ups, and then a dumbbell front rack lunge for 15 meters. For our advanced kids today, we're going to reduce the number of reps, but we're going to keep the rounds the same. So if we have 30 single unders, we're going to maintain the distance. We'll keep the distance for the farmer's carry, 25 meters out, 25 meters back, but we'll choose a load appropriate for our children. We're going to reduce the number of sit-ups. So we're going to have 10 sit-ups instead of 20 GHD sit-ups. Really, we don't want to load them with so much eccentric contraction on the way back down from that sit-up. So 100 sit-ups would be too much volume for our children, especially when we consider that eccentric loading on the way back down from the top of the sit-up to the lying back down. And then we've got 10 dumbbell front rack lunges. Now, I've kept this as a static dumbbell lunge, and we're really here, probably for many of our children for the first time, looking at that dumbbell front rack position in the lunge. So I've taken out the dynamic part where it's with the walk. So we're just going to focus on getting really great positioning in our start position, where they go, and then where they finish for that movement. And we'll go through some lunge progressions and some little tips for getting children to hit their points of performance in the videos. For our less experienced children, I've changed it from a for time workout to an AMRAP. And this is just to lower the intensity. And again, like I've mentioned before, this is an AMRAP in a given time. Now, I'm not going to set a time. That's for you to decide based on the capacity of your children, but also we don't want them to lose focus, or we don't want them to get to that point of exhaustion for this workout. Now, I'm going to go through the movement. So we've got 20 jumping jacks. So some of our children that are less experienced might not have the accuracy to hit single under skips yet. They're going to do a farmer's carry. They're going to do 20 meters, 10 meters out, 10 meters back. 5 sit-ups. Again, we've reduced the reps even more for the same reason that we reduced the reps for our more advanced children. And we've got 10 lunges here. So we're really focusing on an unloaded movement, hitting those points of performance really well before we load our children. Now, I would suggest that children are probably going to spend 20 to 30 seconds on their jumping jacks. Their dumbbell farmer's carry maybe upwards of about 30 seconds, maybe a bit less. Again, about 20 seconds for the sit-ups, and then upwards of about 30 to 40 seconds for the lunges if they're moving slowly and consistently. Now let's say 1 minute for each movement, or maybe 30 seconds for each movement. So that will be 2 minutes per round. So really we're looking at the children spending about 8 minutes working out here. Okay, it might be slightly less. Maximum 10 minutes, but for especially our less experienced, we're looking in that 5 to 8 minute range for this workout. For our no equipment option, again, we're going to keep it as an AMRAP in a given time, depending on where your children are at in terms of their capacity. We're going to look at 20 jumping jacks. Now, in place of our farmer's carry, we've got a 20-second handstand hold. This for 2 reasons. We really like to program movements that stimulate the vestibular system for our children, and we get that from being upside down or with rolls or spins. And also just to give them some time under tension like they would have with that farmer's carry in a slightly different way that's probably appropriate for our children. We've got 5 to 10 sit-ups depending on where your children are at. And again, we're going to look at 10 unloaded lunges. So really focusing in on getting those points of performance really well, moving consistently well throughout those movements. So when they do have some load under there in their hands or wherever they're loading, that they're still consistent with those movements. So a great opportunity there to dial in those points of performance for the lunges. For today's workout, I'm going to have some videos showing you different progressions for the lunges and also some cues that can help get the points of performance right for the children. And I'm going to go through some handstand hold progressions. Jonah here is going to help take us through some points of performance for the lunge, and we're going to offer some cues that you might use to help keep those points of performance while the children are performing the exercise. The first thing I like the children to do is get their feet shoulder width apart, and it's the same way that we do this with the squat. So I'm going to ask Jonah to put his thumbs out in front. He's going to put his thumbs on his shoulders, and he's going to line his feet up with his shoulders. Good job. I'm going to ask him to put his hands down by his sides. Okay, when I'm coaching the lunge, I ask my children to step forwards and pause. So I'm going to ask Jonah to step forwards with one foot, pause. And now I'm going to say, now can you lightly touch your back knee on the floor and then stand back up. Bring your front foot back to your back foot. And then I'm going to ask them to repeat that with the other foot. So can you try the other step forward, pause, lightly touch down with the knee, push, bring your front foot back. That's a great job. Now, some of the things that we're looking for them to have a vertical shin when they're stepping forwards, so that their knee's not past their foot, so that making sure they step forwards far enough. I'm going to ask Jonah to turn to the side. He's going to step forwards lightly. He's going to gently touch his knee to the floor, and as you can see here, his shoulder, hip and knee are all in line. And then I'm going to ask him to bring his front foot back, keeping his shoulders up. Good job. Face the front for me, Jonah. One thing that we can do is if our children are too narrow with their feet, they can wobble and lose balance, is just to put them some markers out in front to aim for. So I'm going to ask Jonah to set his feet up again, shoulder width apart, thumbs up, thumbs on your shoulders. Make sure your feet are underneath your shoulders. Okay, so I'm going to give these a target for Jonah, and I'm going to say, Jonah, when you're lunging, hands down by your sides, can you step forwards and aim to have your toes, your feet in line with the small plates that I've put in front of you there. Good. And step back, and with the other foot for me. That's a nice tactile cue that you can give the children, a target to aim for when they're lunging, and that will keep their width nice and wide. Now, whenever we're coaching any of the movements with our children, we are probably only focusing on one point of performance for each time that we revisit the movement. So it might be that you're focusing on their stance, so where their feet go. It could be that you're focusing on where the knee goes, or it could be focusing on them keeping their torso upright as they lunge. It could be the length of their lunge. But whenever you're coaching any of these movements, just pick one point of performance to focus on and build on that. So the first one I would start with is where their feet are, where their feet go, and where their feet come back to. Jonah here is going to help take us through an unloaded front rack lunge. This is going to be building on the points of performance from an unloaded lunge with no implements at all. Jonah's going to get his feet into the right position, so he's going to put his arms out, he's going to put his thumbs on his shoulders, he's going to put his feet shoulder width apart. Now, for a front rack lunge, we're going to keep his hands in this position. He's going to have his thumbs on his shoulders, his elbows or his lasers are going to be pointing up high. As he lunges, he's going to maintain this position, so he's going to step forwards and pause, lightly touch the floor with his back knee, keeping his front rack position where it is, and then bringing his front foot back to meet his back foot. He's going to repeat with the other foot. Lightly touch his knee down, step back, and then he's going to show me 2 at full pace without the pause, but still gently touching his knee on the floor. Notice he's keeping his elbows nice and high throughout. Good job. Jonah's going to take us to a dumbbell lunge, a front rack dumbbell. Jonah here is going to take us through a dumbbell front rack lunge. This is building on the points of performance from an unloaded lunge. So making sure that those are in place, making sure that children can then do this with in a front rack position unloaded, so their legs are pointing high. And then now, if they can maintain all of those points of performance, now we're going to give them some dumbbells. So I'm going to ask Jonah to get his dumbbells up into the front rack position. His elbows are high, just like they were unloaded. He's going to make sure his feet are shoulder width apart. And then he's still going to maintain those points. He's going to step forward and gently touch his back knee down, standing all the way up, bringing his front foot back, and then he's going to repeat with the other foot. And he's going to show me 2 more at full pace, still lightly touching his back knee to the floor, keeping his feet shoulder width apart. Elbows up, good job. And then he's going to place them on the floor. Nice work. Okay, Jonah here is going to take us through our first progression when teaching a handstand hold. We're going to call this one the stink bug. You might recognize it as the downward dog in yoga. So I'm going to ask Jonah to face me from there. I'm going to ask him to come down onto his hands and knees. From his position, I'm going to make sure that Jonah's got his hands underneath his shoulders. Good job. I'm going to ask him to push his bum in the air. Excellent. And I'm going to ask him to look at his knees. You can see by just using those simple instructions, it's put him in a really nice position there. And rest. Jonah here is going to take us through our second handstand hold progression. We're going to use a wall walk to get them into a more inverted position than they were with the stink bug hold. So I'm going to ask Jonah to lie down on his belly with his feet against the wall. He's going to have his hands underneath his shoulders. Moving on to this progression, your children would have had experience holding the plank position. So I'm going to ask Jonah to get himself into a plank. He's going to take 1 step up the wall. He's going to take another step up the wall to match his feet. And then he's going to just look at the wall, keeping his ears, hiding his ears with his arms. And he's got a nice hollow position here, straight legs. And he's going to hold that position for as long as he needs to in the warm up, the skill, or the workout. And then he's just going to walk himself down onto the floor. Good job. With our wall walk, we can increase the level that the children are becoming inverted to increase the complexity depending on their skill level. So Jonah's going to show us what a wall walk looks like. He's going to push up into a plank. He's going to step himself up onto the wall. And then gradually he's going to walk his hands towards the wall while walking his feet up, maintaining a nice hollow body position, pointing his toes, pushing up, down into the ground. So he's pushing away from the ground. And then to come out of that position, he's going to walk himself down. If you have children that are able to get in that position, make sure that they can forward roll, because the forward roll is the way that we would teach the children to bail out of that should they need to fall forwards. They would tuck their chin and then roll out of the wall facing handstand hold. Our final handstand hold progression is going to be kicking up into a wall supported handstand while facing away from the wall. This would be for those children that have gone through their stink bug progression. They can hold a plank for a period of time and they can get themselves inverted into a wall facing handstand using a wall walk. And now we're just going to add the extra layer of complexity by kicking up into the handstand as well. So with all of those points of performance, hands shoulder width apart, maintaining a stacked wrist, shoulder, hip, and with a kick up now. So Jonah's going to kick up into the wall for us. He's going to have his hands ready, step forward with 1 foot, kick himself up. He's going to point his toes, push them up into the sky. He's pushing into the ground and he's maintaining a nice stacked position here throughout that movement. And then he just come down, he brings one foot down and then the other foot. Just to bring things together really, I'm going to talk through one of the ways in which I might set up one of the workouts if I was doing it in an affiliate setting. When you're at home, you've just got to really set things up best way that you can, depending on the space you have. We have really limited space here, so we have to be quite creative, move things out of the way, make sure it's safe, but sometimes we need to adapt our movements even just because our space is very small. But if you're in an affiliate setting and you have more space, you can be a bit creative with how you approach those workouts, especially when we're thinking about what they're like for children. So I've changed the order of some of the movements here, and I've focused on keeping the kids moving through the workout a bit like an obstacle course. And it's like an obstacle course style, and it just keeps them moving through and gives them a natural point of where to perform each movement. So you can see that I've got the handstand hold here at the beginning if you're looking at that option. So they'd hold the handstand hold at the beginning because they need a wall. And then I've added in some animal walk. So I've put in a bear crawl here for them to move them on to the next station. And then we've got either our skipping or our jumping jacks at the next station. And then I've put in some skipping here, like you'd see children do in a playground. So they would skip to the next cone. And then on the next cone, they'd perform the designated number of lunges that they would do. And then from there, I'd have a coned off area. So I might have a cone here and then a cone back at the beginning where the children would sprint to. And that would take them through the workout, especially when we're doing it sort of in an AMRAP for a given time. Having that obstacle course set up allows the children to move through the workout, but it also gives them a reference point in remembering what movement should be performed at what station and in what order. And again, if this was the farmer's carry, I might have the farmer's carry from the start to the cone instead of the bear crawl. I'd take out the bear crawl and have that farmer's carry in there. And then they'd have the double unders or jumping jacks. And then I'd get them moving on through some skipping, or maybe I put the bear crawl in here. And then they'd perform a movement at the end, the lunges, or maybe the squat, depending on what movement we're looking at. And then I'd get them to take them back here. You can have great fun with obstacle course style workouts and be really creative with them, depending on the setup of your space. Maybe if you are an affiliate, give this a try. Change the movement order of the movements to see what fits best with your setting and the equipment you have. Just an idea. Hope you enjoy it, guys.